You have to tell them what your value is and then ask, rather than upfront saying, you have to give me this much to even open the door. That's just not going to happen.
Don't sell yourself cheap to other people's projects. Sell yourself all in on your own.
In all of my startup companies, when I identify the people I want to bring in, I go in and I give them a great equity right up front.
The constant thing that I see on you is you're always sharing knowledge on new advances, on new technology, on innovation.
I've been screwed so many which ways by just about everybody that I don't think there is a new way to screw me, and then yet somebody finds a way to screw me.
Two vascular surgeons walk into a bar and come out with a podcast. We are talking everything vascular and not. Welcome to the Life of Flow podcast.
The following podcast is not relating to my teachings and work at Del Cedar Medical Center and is for entertainment purposes only.
Man, we are here in Chicago. That is really cool. We made it. We have been doing this for a while. We normally record in different places. And I want to say the last time we were offsite was in Leipzig, Germany. We recorded a few shows there with the good folks at HMP. They've been great partners in this. And hey, this is the new Amputation Prevention Meeting series. So we're going to have a few people here. I am very, very excited to have you here because your name has been on my VIP list for a while. Mahmood, it's always an honor to be with you. And I'll tell you just because you're just like a fun guy and you have such knowledge, such profound knowledge of technology, technique, and patient care that it's always great to share with you. It's always great to have an interaction and discussion. So thanks for being here, man.
Oh, fantastic. Look, hey, congratulations. Great job in this podcast and the shows that you guys are running. They're fun, they're good, they're informative. Fantastic. I'll be glad to be here. It's a privilege.
Thank you.
So we're going to kick it with a fun story he told us offline, which I thought was hilarious. Because I asked, I don't want to butcher your name. I've been around the world multiple times, right? And my name has been butchered on a constant, including my wife.
Yeah.
And so I always say
your
to
name
our
is
guests,
butchered. Imagine what would happen to my name.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I said, is Mahmood the right way to say it? And what did you tell me?
Yeah, he said I said absolutely correct, and it's been butchered so much that I'm completely insensitive to what they call me.
Me too.
So
none of my patients know my real name. They some think I'm Ferrer, some think I'm Cardona, and they mix it, and I'm like, at this point, you can call me whatever you want.
The funny with me, it's Baker.
Yeah, Baker. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Dr. Baker.
It's easier. Yeah.
And they're like, what? Dr. Baker? No, he's Montero Baker. He's like, no, my doctor is Baker only. And so, but anyway, when you're what do you do when you're in a coffee line at Starbucks? What's your name?
Well, okay. Well, my name can be Miguel, or it could be Mike, or just.
Do you really say that? Do you say my name is Miguel to the lady?
I just say put him in there. Just point to me. I know it's me. I'll come and pick it up.
Awesome, man. Okay, well, listen. Obviously, if you don't know who Mahmood is, then you've been under a rock for many years. He has been so influential in so many ways in our specialty. He's pushed the needle. And one of the things, of course, we could speak of so many things today, but we'll probably have to have a plethora of shows with you in the future. But at least today, we wanted to talk about innovation because I think that that's one of the things that makes you tick. I mean, going back, I'm thinking 15 years or so, if not more, that I met you initially. That's been the constant, the constant thing that I see on you is you're always sharing knowledge on new advances, on new technology, on innovation. Why don't you take me back a little bit, maybe beginning career? Let's go back. When did you say, this is something I'm going to do? I want to build cool shit and I want to make toys and devices that can change people's lives. When did that happen?
Well, I tell you, there was, that's not how things start. As a completely green behind the ear person, walk into a cool specialty. But for me, honestly, interventional work was by accident.
Because you were an interventional radiologist.
I'm an interventional radiologist, and back in the 90s, still the founders of the specialty are still alive. That's how new this is. I'm not embarrassed to say that I was completely, I started the radiology residency, and within a year I realized this is really a little bit on the boring side. I need to do something else.
What year was this?
This was back in 1990.
Okay.
And I was at UCLA, and great group of people. I considered myself lucky back then. It was really hard to get radiology residency, and try satisfy my ego in medical school. I want to go into anyway. First year, a lot of radiology residents probably can relate to it. You start, and you have completely underestimated how much reading there is, because you need to know every disease from the top of the head to the toes, and you need to know the pathology, you need to know everything. And boy, that first month, they throw at you textbooks with 1,000 pages on it. Know this by next week.
That sounds daunting. Let me just make a small pause there, because I don't think I've ever taken 1 second to think about how complicated it is to be a radiologist, right? I mean, yes, I know you interpret images, yes, but interpretation of images is, right, you're not just reading, you're not a computer just saying, oh, here's A and B, but the interpretation of the disease, what does this mean in the context of A? What does this mean in the context of B? And what can I do to give this multidisciplinary team what they need? So you almost have to know a lot about everything.
If you want to be useful, honestly, it's not just that, hey, there's something in the lung over here. Well, anybody can see that, right? Okay, so initially you think as a resident that maybe I can see it better. No, you can't. The fact is, but once you see it, the interpretation of what that means is important. Now, don't underestimate the work that they have to do and all of that, but it just wasn't for me. I was more of a put your hands on, push something. And then there was a guy, the interventional radiologist back at UCLA in the old days, guy by the name of Tom McNamara. And he had his own practice, his own thing, which was sort of not typical way back then in the 90s. And he had his own clinic. He had a nurse who did wound care. And so and I said, maybe that's fun, and worked a little bit with him. But of course, it was back then, it was really, really hard. The equipment wasn't right. You just had to make up stuff, pull off stuff off the shelf, whatever works.
Did that make it more exciting, though?
Well, no, because then you see that I'm thinking of how we used to do stuff back then, okay? And how things have progressed since then, talking about the innovation, right? And then he would come up with the stuff, okay, well, I need to infuse some urokinase here. There's no right catheter. I'm going to make multi-cycle catheter and call it McNamara catheter, put it in anyway. But I got, where all of this started wasn't there so much, is where I decided to do my fellowship. When I was interviewing for fellowship, I was looking at 3 places: UCLA, UC San Francisco, and Stanford.
Okay.
And San Francisco guys rejected me offhand. I said, this guy's no good. Probably because my
English... They did you a favor. Don't worry, that city's in the shitter anyway.
That is true. You might be there.
Well, but back then...
Take care to my San Francisco.
IR at UC San Francisco was the top program.
Okay.
And then I went to interview at Stanford, and the day I got there, there was, Mike Dake did a thoracic endograft.
Oh, wow. That had to have been
This is in the 90s. It just blew my mind out. I said, holy mo. I can say holy shit here, right?
Yeah, you can say
I did.
Holy
I said, oh,
fucking shit.
Yeah. This is what. And then I talked to Dake, and I said, oh, this guy is in a different stratosphere. I want to come here. And so, I got lucky, and they took me. And then once I got there, you get next door to me was Tom Fogarty, and this side is, John Simpson down the road, all of that. So the environment became very different. And I think it was Tom Fogarty, but I don't know. I can't remember. He said, and I'm now after fellowship, I'm in academia. He said, at the Stanford, we don't publish. we file patents first.
Ooh.
That's smart.
It may have been him. It may have been somebody else. I don't want to give say the wrong thing, but somebody over there. That's what they said. They said, "Huh." At UCLA,
I love that.
at UCLA, you look for NIH grants, publication, this, that, and the other. Here, if you have a discovery, you first to see what can I do with it. It's not just the NIH grants, is it? So it puts you in a different state of mind. And then, I learned a lot over the years, little things, watching Mike Dake and all these companies were coming and going back then. It was the hub of a lot of new developments back in the 90s, the Stanford group was. And so you learn a lot of lessons. And I remember once Mike Dake told me, there was a local company that came in, they were probably looking for Mike, they couldn't find him, and I was down the road, and they knocked into my room. I was a nobody. They came in and they said, "Hey, what do you think of this catheter?" or something along those lines. The angle, how do you think this works? And I gave him my opinion, whatever it was. And Mike Dake passed by. After they left, he came back and he said, let me draw you a curve of time. This is consulting over here where you spend this number of hours and this is what you get. And this is when you do your own thing. It's on the other side. And I suggest you do your own thing. I don't know if he remembers that, Dake.
Let's talk about that a little bit more. Let's dive into that. What was he? Explain it a little bit. Break it down for us. So what he was trying to say to you?
Yeah, what he was trying to tell me is that with your knowledge that you've gained and the skills and all of that, consulting is on the low end of income. Okay, because you get, I had another partner by the name of Charlie Semba, who's also did really well in the world of innovation. He, of all things, he went into ophthalmology, and he has some significant. But anyway, he used to say, with consulting is they come in and they put a vacuum to your head and they download it, and so. Mike was saying that they come here for an hour or two, you get paid whatever you get paid, and you give them your benefit of your knowledge, and they go do their thing. Why don't you, on the really innovation side, try to develop it yourself? Because for the time you spent, the return is much better on this side than on the consulting side.
Well, I would like to even go before that and talk about academia, because in academia, most people, there's a requirement to publish, right? Yeah. And that is kind of built into your incentive package. But how much more productive, in my opinion, we would be more productive, more impactful if that was the mindset instead. Because, yes, obviously the scientific process and looking for new discoveries is important, but over the time, you're kind of polishing the same stuff. And most people don't really read 90% or 99% of what's published, and it's not really impactful. But how impactful would it be if our mindset was, let's create, let's innovate, and let's have that be like a cornerstone of whatever. I don't know.
If I see another VQI, massive data, Medicare 30,000 data, you're just mashing up the same data over and over and over, just trying to find an angle to be able to publish.
So look, all of that is important. NIH, at grants and publishing, all of those are fundamental. They're all important. But there is this other aspect of it, is that
But the thing is, that is 99% of the effort in academia. And the startup enterprises, the new projects to commercialize our ideas are nothing, or 1%, or in their infancy. So it's really interesting that it's just it seems like an unproductive way to use our energy and our minds.
There's one thing I want to bring up, is that, I always tell people that if you want to see where the field is in 5 years, look at, strategic companies investing their R&D dollars. Mm-hmm. If you want to see where something is in about 10 or 15 years, look and see where people are filing patents, okay? If you want to see where the world is going to be, or your field, in about 20 years, look where NIH is funding. Okay, the NIH, I tell you, for the, and I don't want to get political here, but the return on investment for our tax dollars of everything that the federal government does probably is the highest in the NIH. And somebody had done that calculation, actually. It was one of the NIH guys, And
That's
if you,
interesting in the setting in which it's almost being demonized that federal funds going into grants should be cut because it
well,
doesn't make a lot of money, but
because
it actually does
because
down the
people
line.
people who do that, it's a knee-jerk reaction. They really haven't done their calculation, their homework to see. I mean, if you look at even pharmaceutical companies, right? A lot of the stuff we prescribe, we use, all of that, and the discoveries are based back on the back of what NIH did 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And it's from virology, you name it. I mean, how much money large companies, pharma and else, have made on the NIH knowledge that was developed, it's enormous. I think NIH should take a piece of the action, to be honest with you, but so not to underestimate that part of the academia, but our mindset at the time was that, this was the beginning of endovascular, right? And so there was a lot to be developed, a lot to be, it wasn't just let's make a catheter that bends a little bit. And, those people who were in the drug-eluting business know, of a decade of failures and things that, you would put all sorts of junk on the stents, and then it would immediately thrombose instead of getting better. So we've been through a lot of pain to come to where things are. And of course, I was just lucky being at the right place at the right time, and then people infusing the right mindset.
I'll tell you, I feel very jealous now in a good way. I think there's bad jealousy and good jealousy. I'm always saying I've got good jealousy for you in the sense that I would have loved if somebody would have early on in my career told me this about, listen, as you grow, you're going to have all these people trying to pay for your attention, trying to pay for your intellect, trying to pay for your ideas, with no intention of sharing what may come from those efforts. You realize that you've spent hours on projects, and you feel somehow, maybe at the beginning of your career, you're happy to see a nice little paycheck come in unexpected in the mail, with a couple of $1,000. And then you realize 3 years later that a company got acquired for $450 million. And then it makes you feel pathetically sad about the $2,000 you got, because maybe, just maybe, that conversation could have opened the door to something for them that they didn't understand at the time. And so I think that what you're saying here, Mahmood, is very astute. And for the very young listeners that follow us, it's keep an eye on the ball. If innovation tickles you, if entrepreneurship tickles you, don't sell yourself cheap to other people's projects. Sell yourself all in on your own, right? Because the ROI, coming from a doctor's standpoint, I think we know exactly what we need. We know the tool we're looking for.
But is there a benefit to knowing to develop? First, I would imagine there's a benefit to developing the relationships. I would imagine there's also a benefit of, diving a little bit into that work to understand what the questions are, what the right questions to ask are.
There's almost like a learning curve.
There's a learning. It's a school.
To do some of that.
If you're a younger, physician, engineer, whatever, with ideas, and you think the path to get to a successful product or company is not easy. It's difficult. Not everyone knows how to do it. That's why I tell everybody, get a mentor, get somebody who's done it before. Now, my advice on that to those who have those companies, who are bringing advisors in, is that if you want really good advice and somebody to sort of feel that they are engaged with your company, is that you gotta spend that equity. Okay. I see a lot of startups come in and they are, they're looking for guidance and consulting and disease this, disease that. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? If you're doing marketing research, fine. I'm not the right guy. Okay? Right. But if you truly want guidance into where you want to go, you have to pay the price, And in all of my startup companies, when I identify the people I want to bring in, I go in and I give them a great equity right up front. Okay. So that means now they're part of the team. Okay, they are with us. And I remember in one of the companies that we sold in 2017, we went and we engaged some neurointerventional people. And I told my team, guys, we'll give each one of them this percent of the company, which initially, it gives the board and all of those people a sticker shock. What are you talking about? But then at the other end of it, you said, that's the best investment we made. Okay. There was one company that came to me, and they were really, really green behind the ears, and they had a great technology that they were going this way, and I thought they should go that way. I said, look, give me 10% of the company. I mean, that's very steep, but I will do X, Y, and Z for you. And back and forth after a while, and that the only reason they sold the company was because of what we did. So there is.
So it was
I'm not saying give
10% they've ever invested.
It
would have never gotten to where it got.
Correct. 10% is steep. Now they may have, but they may have gotten a different path. But the point being that to the entrepreneurs who do have their own company is that they probably get the advice that equity is very expensive. Hold on to it. I'm saying equity is the best thing you have to make a team. And once you have that team, once you get somebody like Miguel on board, and a lot of people come and ask me in our field, and they're saying, who should we talk to? Miguel, you're one of the first people that I tell them to go see. Okay?
That's very kind of you.
Yeah, the first time that I saw you, you were quiet, and we were in some advisory board, and I don't know if you remember or not. And they were going around, and you didn't say very much. And then a question came up, and they asked you, and I didn't know you well back then. And you came up with an analysis and an answer for them. I was sitting there. I said, whoa, who's that guy? I need to get to know him a little bit better. That's the guy I need to know. And then after that, I got to know you better. And so, if they want somebody like you, they need to make sure that you are a member of the team.
I do believe that. Yeah. I do believe it. Having skin
and
in the game.
That extends to
anybody.
To anybody that
your
they want.
Your chief technology officer, your chief commercial officer, exactly. Whoever you want on that team needs to. But it's interesting because I call it the dilution game, which happens in every company inevitably. And let's say us three are here, and at the end of this pod, we say, hey, let's form a company. We're really smart guys. So all of a sudden, that cap table is very easy. You have a third, and I have a third. And complexity starts eating at the monster, starts making it, building it, creating. And then at some point, you have to corporatize it. And then you make millions of stocks. Because you want to have the capacity to give somebody 10,000 stock, which sounds like a shit ton, but it's nothing. And so that's, to your point, I think, is when you start saying, I'm going to give that guy 10,000 in stock. You're not giving him anything. Might as well give him 10% of the company, which is probably going to be maybe 200,000 in stock, but that's going to actually create skin in the game. And so you can't cheap change, I think. This is an interesting perspective that you're bringing, because I think that normally it's the three people in that one room that guard that until at the end the VC comes and screws everybody and dilutes and all this stuff happens. But they give just crumbs to physicians.
I mean, I'm talking to a couple of very smart engineers now that they have a great idea. Okay. No doubt about it. At this point in our careers, when you see a lot of deals. Some people come for investment, some people come for advice, some people come that they want a consultant. And we don't have all the time in the world, right? We're still clinically active, all of that, and then family time, whatever. So you're asking yourself, should I spend my time on here? Okay. So if a company comes in and a project or something that it's a garbage idea, I say, well, here's my hourly rate, and I don't want to spend a lot of time. It's gonna, if you pay me this much. If somebody comes in, you say, well, that's a good idea. Like a couple of engineers company. And I recommended a couple of other things to people to be on their board and all that because I can see that these guys are going to go the wrong way. Okay. They have a great idea. They've started it nicely. They've done good research on it. Two smart, very smart guys. But do they understand the business? Do they know how they can go wrong with a good idea? There's so many good ideas that didn't get anywhere. And I recommended somebody for the board who just wanted, typical board position that you get. And if you want to put somebody on somebody's board, you got to give 1% of the company at this stage. Yeah, for a board member that can go. So I recommended somebody that they put on the board, it's just 1%. And they're sort of struggling. They don't want to say, okay, maybe this is a good idea. Maybe this is a good space, but these are not the right guys.
Yeah.
They don't understand the value of somebody. All right, go talk to, go talk to somebody else. When you hit the wall 5 years from now, I'm not going to be there to tell you I told you so. But my advice is that once you identify the people that you think they're going to get you there, then use equity as a trap. Bring them in.
So how do I identify? How do I? Working with engineers or working with people to collaborate, how do I identify someone that's a good person to collaborate? And how do I identify someone that's not a good person that you want to stay away from?
In our field, let's say I had, some I don't know, some company that you have something new for treatment of CLTI patients. Okay, let's say we got it. We know who is in this space, right? We know who's an enroller, who's an advisor, who has connections to what. So we have that advantage. But a couple of new guys who are coming around who don't. I mean, somebody approached me yesterday in the hallway, down the stairs, and says, "Hey, we're a new European company. This is what we have. This is look." And it was very clear to me that he just didn't know who's who. He's here to find out. So they have to go through the process of discovery to find out who's who, okay? That there's some people you want for your trial. There's some people you want because there's somebody else's advisor that you want influence on their board. And then there are those people. The only way to find that out is to truly put them through an interview process. You sit down and you say, what are my unmet needs in my company? Who do I need? And then when you talk to people, are these the guys? And then you go around, you ask Miguel, who else do you know? You go to talk to you, you come talk to me. Within a few months, you sort of figure this out. It's also possible that you may make a mistake, bring the wrong person on, but then that's part of the game, especially if you don't know anything about a space that you're in. And that happens a lot too, especially on the engineering side, and they want to pick doctors. And then, on the doctor side, when you want to pick engineers, you quickly find out who's good and who's not. What you may make a mistake in is if you need to bring business expertise on and somebody to run your company, you may make a mistake there. And that's where we could go wrong. And that's where you have to do your due diligence of talking to a lot of people, interviewing, getting references, all of that. So it's part of the process, like medical school. You want to admit somebody into medical school, imagine how many hoops we have to jump through to get into a residency or what have you, right? And even then they make mistakes. So that's possible, but the suggestion is that, look at the track record. If somebody's got the track record and the name and all of that, and they've been through the process. I was telling somebody 2 weeks ago, I said, I've been screwed so many which ways by just about everybody that I don't think there is a new way to screw me. And then yet somebody finds a way to screw me. And so it's a lesson for everybody else that how do I get screwed less?
It's the unlimited book of Kama Sutra.
It's like 10,000 ways to die, 10,000 ways to get screwed over.
And as physicians, we're very good to assume the position to be screwed.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. We're good at that. We love being martyrs.
But these are all just so important pearls that you're bringing to the table. Because it's if you're being contacted to advise, then the diligence that you should have about what that relationship's going to be, right? And I've tried to become much more straightforward. You saw this in a text I sent to somebody in industry not too long ago because I shared it with you. But this is my bandwidth. This is what I can do. I don't want to overcommit to this. Mm-hmm. And I don't necessarily want the, a couple $100 for that. Like, I'm not looking for that. And if you come to me with an idea, then I have to be really good at saying, is this a shit idea or is this not a shit idea? Or to your point, this is a great idea, but this is a shit founder, right? Because you can have a great idea and a wrong founder. You can have a great founder with the wrong idea. And so all of these things need to settle, need to align. And then you say, okay, well, here's what I would like for this particular project. Because I can tell you stories and stories of things that initially I didn't really vet. I spent hours because they gave me a really big chunk of this company, but the founders were shit, the business people were shit. And even though the technology was amazing, they never did their diligence. They never did what they had to do. Hours later, what happened? Company folded. I didn't get any money, and I lost hours of my life. Now I learned, but at this point, that's important. And then you move it. Sorry, Lucas, let me just wrap up. And so then you move to the next level, which is now you're also saying what happens when I'm building my Ocean's 11, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's when you're going to build your Ocean's 11, you're going to make sure you get the right damn people at that table. Scrutinize, create, and then when you're ready, give him a chunk. Give him a chunk. This is like you've just laid the blueprints on how to do it right.
There's also an art to the physicians asking. Okay, I'll give you two examples. I won't bring the names up, but I'll give you two examples.
Keep it anonymous.
There was a very promising company that had a very large exit, and I was involved with them, and not as a founder, but just involved. And I sent them to, they wanted to, name a few other people, and I sent them to some guys I knew at a particular university. And they went there to, said, okay, well, here's what we have here. And they got so turned off by this one guy that I thought they should sign up. But he didn't know how to ask. The guy is great. The guy is very knowledgeable. This is his space. And they walk in and he tells them in a very arrogant fashion, this is how we do things. This is what we want. This is how you need to do it. Take it or leave it. You don't do that. The company who doesn't know you or the founder who doesn't know you, they need to understand what your value is to them. Instead of saying this is how we do it, what you should do, this is what I can do for you. Mm-hmm. And then let them go digest it and come back and say, well, this is what I want. Okay? But you have to tell them what you can do for them. And they go do their due diligence and they come back and say, yeah, this guy can do that for me. Okay? Yeah. And this is the price I'm willing to pay. Then it becomes negotiable. There was another company, same thing. And I sent them, they were European. So I sent them to a European guy I knew. And he wouldn't even give them the time of the day. All right. And then they went to, a country next door, talked to somebody else. And of course, that guy next door made a good bit of money when the company sold. And I got a call from the original guy saying, hey, why didn't you do this to me? I said, wait a minute. These guys came to you. You just didn't even give them a light of the day. So there is an art on the part of us physicians on how to deal with these companies. And my suggestion is, if somebody comes to you, it's probably because they think they need you. You have to tell them,
what you can do.
What you can do. You have to tell them what your value is, and then ask, rather than up front saying, "Well, I sit at this ivory tower here. You have to give me this much to even open the door." That's just not going to happen.
Especially not now.
So
money is expensive.
Yeah. What should young physicians? What skills in this space should young
I just want to, real quick, time check, because I know you've got about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I got that.
Let's wrap it up with this particular part that I think is really important. Is let's say that we have a bunch of young entrepreneurs that are thinking of wanting to be involved. Maybe they have their own ideas. Maybe some few pearls that you would give somebody starting innovation as a career path, both doctor or engineer, as to what you would do. Maybe let's do this one. How about we frame it this way? If you could go back in time, what would you advise yourself?
Oh, I'd say, everybody says write a letter to yourself in the future. I said write a letter to yourself in the past. So you learn for the future. I would get a mentor. The advice that came to me was not because I asked, is by passive infusion of people like Dake and these, Fogarty and whatever around that you sort of absorb. Instead of me having some questions and just go and ask him, because people generally want to help. They will tell you, especially if you're a young person, get a mentor, ask questions. Ask questions, get a mentor. I cannot overemphasize that.
Okay.
And let them guide you through the process, because it makes life a lot easier.
So find somebody that you may want to emulate, at least,
And
their
that you
path,
have access to.
and that
There are a lot
gives
of
you
those.
access to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There was a guy who reached out to me, I don't know, 5 years ago, something like that, interventional radiologist, and he found me, and the guy was so skilled in making connections. And I tell you that I don't mind saying his name. You may want to, there's a guy by the name of Ali Gulshan. Okay.
Oh yeah, of course.
This guy is so expert in
Ali is a
making
good
connections, bringing people in, and he's got such people's skills. Learn from that guy.
We'll have him on the pod next.
He came to me. He had no access to me. He had no, but he brought me in. And so find people who can guide. He's a person himself that needs to guide others on how to do things. There is some skill to that.
This is a shout out to our good friend Ali. I was with him not too long ago, talking about some really cool stuff. So we definitely have to have him on the show. Yeah. We'll make sure that we make that
happen.
invite.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I like him.
All right. Well, Mahmood, I want to be respectful of your time. It was really impromptu. I literally told him we were sharing a podium. I looked over. I said, we've got about 45 minutes. Let's go. Let's record. And thanks for being so gracious. Thanks for sharing your past and your advice. Man, we need to do this a lot more.
Hey, this was fun. Let's do it at a time. But I don't have a flight to catch. And then we can actually have some fun with this and get into diseases, get into whatever you want.
Oh, yes.
All right, let's do it.
No, I'm going to go deep with you on entrepreneurship.
Yeah, let's go deep on
business.
entrepreneurship. Let's do it like a mini series.
Yes, a series on
Mahmood
MedTech
and
entrepreneurship.
Yeah, let's do that.
Sounds like a
All
plan,
right,
guys.
All right.
All
Bless
right.
you.
All right. Wow.
Thank you very much.
Take care, guys.